Be inspired. Sean was diagnosed with autism at 18 months. When it was discovered that he was also gluten and casein intolerant, he was placed on a biomedical diet. After trying a number of the mixes available, Grandma Debbie and her sister Kathy knew they could do better. Something just as healthy, but with improved taste and texture. Inspiration mixes are exactly that, and we'd like to share our delicious creations with you. We're sure you'll love them just as much as Sean does. Bon appetit.
Hi, my name is Debbie, and I'm with Inspiration Mixes, a gluten-free baking mix company. Today I'm going to show you how to make our pie crust. It's very simple, and it can also be made vegan. So to start with, we take pie crust mix. It makes 2 crusts, so you can either make a single pie top and bottom, or you can make a 2 single crusts. So I'm going to put the bag in a bowl. It requires 2/3 cup of shortening. You can mix shortening and butter half and half. It just depends. You can also use margarine. I use a pastry cutter because you want those pea-sized pieces just like you do in a regular wheat crust. So we're just going to put these together and use this pastry cutter to create that. So as we get this all worked in with our pastry cutter, you can actually use a fork, but this works it the best. And actually, it's pretty good right there. The next step in our process is to take all of the liquid and put it in a bowl, whisk it together, and then add it to our pea-sized mix. This is a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, 1 egg. If you want to make it vegan, you would add, in place of the egg, 2 tablespoons of applesauce. It will be a little bit heavier, but it will still taste great. 1/2 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, which is equal to 1½ teaspoons. And then a 1/2 cup of ice cold water. My grandmother used to actually put ice cubes in it. I just put it in the refrigerator so it's nice and cold. And the reason why you do that is because when it bakes, it creates a reaction between the cold and the heat of the oven and gives it that pop, which makes it nice and flaky. Our next step is to add the liquid ingredients to our dry ingredients. It's very simple to do. This is the easiest pie crust ever. You just pour it in and just moisten it. And what you're going to get is a very doughy, almost cookie-like dough, and then it thickens up as it mixes. The key to any good pie crust is to make sure you refrigerate it for at least 2 hours before you roll it out. So that is going to be our next step. I use a plastic bag, but you can use plastic wrap. Just make sure you wrap it very carefully. Just pick it up. I stick it inside here. Get a little bit more of what's left in here because this is all so tasty. Seal it, and we'll be back in a couple of hours after it has hardened and ready to roll out. I'm going to show you how to roll out a 1-layer pie crust. You can also use the same method to fill your pie and then roll out a second crust and put it on top. First thing I need is some tapioca flour. I choose tapioca flour because rice flour is a little bit gritty sometimes, and this just seems to work out very nicely. So cover your board generously with the tapioca flour. Now we've had this in the refrigerator for 2 hours, and you see how nice, and you can handle it now. Still a little bit sticky, but this is the way you want it. You can actually keep this overnight as well. When you keep it in the refrigerator overnight, it will be a little bit hard. So just let it sit out for about 20 minutes before you start rolling it. All right, take a look at this. See how nice that is? Just cover it a little bit. I squish it out a little bit. I also take my roller, because you don't want anything to stick, even though it might a little bit, and just gently roll it out like you would any pie crust. See how easy that is? It holds its shape, and it's going to make the best pie crust you've ever eaten. Roll it 1 inch bigger than the pie plate you're going to use. I have a 9-inch pie plate. I just simply take my pie plate, I like to use glass, and I put it over the top of it. That gives me measurement on how to do it. Then I use a metal spatula. I love my metal spatula to go up underneath it. Make sure it doesn't stick underneath, because I've had that happen before. Put your plate close. Carefully lift it with one hand and pick it up and slide it in. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Now that we've got it in our pie crust in the pie pan, you can leave it, the edges just level, and just take the spatula and cut it off here. Or you can try and do what my grandmother always did, and that was to crimp it. So as you can see, there's some leftover pieces here. I just kind of tuck that all up underneath. Because that crust is so yummy. And believe me, it just adds to what you're doing when you're filling it. See, look at that. And then you can crimp it like that. Just gives it a little edge. And actually crimping it kind of, when you press it against your pie plate, it will help it so it doesn't shrink against the pie plate as it cooks. Because sometimes it has a tendency to lift out a little bit if you're not filling it. So there you go. Doesn't that look great? So the next thing we're going to do, because there's 2 things you can do now. You can fill it and then put the second layer on top and bake it according to the pie directions that you're actually baking. If it's pumpkin pie or apple pie, if it is a berry pie, follow those directions because it will bake exactly the same. So if you're going to simply bake the shell and fill it, say with a chocolate pudding or coconut cream or something yummy like that, then what you have to do is you need to take your fork and you need to poke holes in the bottom and the side. If you don't do this, the crust will lift out of the plate. So you just simply put lots of holes in here, don't be shy. You want to take it up around the corners here as well. And then that gives it some air to breathe as it cooks. And that's what it looks like. So if you want to bake it like this, turn your oven on to 400 degrees and bake it for 12 to 13 minutes. Oven temperatures vary, so be sure to check it. Let it cool before you fill it with anything, completely cooled, and you have a gluten-free pie crust. From our home to your kitchen, bon appetit.